Welcome to Book Date with 8, a CBS 8 book club. We are so excited to sit down with the author of this quarter's book pick, Elizabeth Gilbert, to talk about All the Way to the River. It's Gilbert's first memoir in about a decade and strikes a sharp contrast to the book that launched her into fame just about 20 years ago, Eat, Pray, Love, you might remember. In her latest emotional and gripping memoir, All the Way to the River, Gilbert walks readers through her relationship with her late partner, Rhea. The love, the hate, everything in between. Elizabeth Gilbert, thank you for being with us.
I'm so honored and happy to be here. Thank you, Evan.
Of course. Your book is fantastic, and we appreciate you making time for us. I hope I got everything right in your intro, and let me know if there's any part of it that I would say the part that I struggled most when writing was that end of it, where I say the love, the hate, because I know that the relationship that you had with Rhea was a very intricate one. So for viewers at home who haven't read the book yet and are just hearing about it, walk us through what the book is about and who Rhea is.
So the book is about my relationship with the writer, actor, filmmaker, and musician Rhea Elias, who was my best friend for many years. And then we very slowly fell in love with each other. And that love we both kept hidden from ourselves and from each other and from the world until she was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic and liver cancer and given 6 months to live, at which point it was no longer possible for either of us to pretend that we were not in love with each other. And we went on a very short, very intense, brief romantic journey together in the months leading up to her death that took us, I think the simplest way to say it is, to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Right.
And this book is my forensic effort to try to understand what took us to the highest of highs and what took us to the lowest of lows.
When you talk about the lowest of lows, I will say it's gripping in that there were times where I almost felt like I was reading a fiction book because of how comfortable you were sharing these very intimate moments. And I had to catch myself and be like, this really happened. You went through with this. I was curious if there was a point when you were writing it where you wanted to just make this about the love and the liberation. And if there was ever a moment where you thought, I don't want to include any of that, I just want it to be about, I loved her, I lost her, and here I am now, or if the details were essential in your mind when you were writing it?
That's such a great question. I mean, it took me 7 years after Rhea's death to write this book for a reason. And part of it was that I kind of didn't want to write it.
Right.
And it wasn't even so much about not wanting to expose her or expose me. She had actually mandated that I write it. You know, she was like, you're going to write a book about us and you're going to tell the whole truth about it. It was that I didn't want to go back into the darkness that I knew I would have to excavate in order to write the harrowing episode at the middle of the book where she returns to active drug addiction. I descend into deep codependency. Neither of us were at our best. Like, there was a part of me that just wanted to walk away from that and pretend it never happened. But the beautiful thing about Rhea was that she loved the truth more than anybody I've ever met. And if I was going to tell this book, I had to tell the whole truth.
There's a part in the book, not to spoil it much, and we're going to go into a much more detailed, kind of spoiler-ridden version of this discussion, but where you tell her, you have that discussion with her and tell her that you love her, and it works out. She loves you back. You guys continue, like you mentioned, into this relationship. In your head, when you were going through that moment, I'm just curious if you were expecting the reaction that you got, or if there was kind of an alternate universe where Rhea didn't respond with that love, that same love.
When I confessed my love to her,
Yeah.
I had no idea how she was going to respond. And knowing her, what I knew was that she was going to tell me the truth. And there was a part of me that thought, I think she loves me the way I love her, but she's also equally capable of going, ew, baby, no.
Well, especially in that moment. She's just been diagnosed.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's already a tough moment to be in. I imagine that was, it's your best friend.
Yeah.
That has to be a terrifying moment.
Yeah. But what it was in the end was a very tender moment where it turned out that we felt exactly the same way about each other. But no, that was a vulnerable risk for me. But she met me with the same amount of love that I had for her.
Well, it's a beautiful book. We have much more to come after the break where we're going to be bringing everyone in on the panel. But you can grab your copy of All the Way to the River. There's a lot more to come after the break. We'll be joined by our panel of readers going in depth on the book. We'll also get your questions answered at home. So stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. We are back with Elizabeth Gilbert, author of All the Way to the River. And we're also joined by Neda Iranpour, our morning anchor. We're joined by Julie Slavinsky of Warwick's. And we're joined by Miranda Nuevo, one of our book club members. Thank you all for being with us on our panel. Boy, do we have some questions for you, Miss Gilbert.
Let's go.
I want to start off, we have some questions from our viewers who have been a part of the book club, including staff here at CBS 8. One of our executive producers, she says, in recent years, I've gone through great loss, which put me in a position to rebuild my life. For me, it was a time marked with great pride and joy, and also great loneliness, isolation, and fear. Since Rhea, what has rebuilding and recovery looked like for you?
Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. I just want to say none of us get to go through our lives without seasons like that and chapters like that. It's just an inevitability that at some point the roof is going to cave in, the floor is going to give out, you know, what you built your life on may disappear. It happens to everybody. And rebuilding is also part of our lives. So for me, what it's looked like is, first of all, sobriety was a really essential part of my recovery of spirit. So literal 12-step recovery and putting down, you know, any substances that I was using to not have to feel, any self-medicating that I was doing, and using other people to alter my mood and mind.
Because your sobriety looked different than what like Rhea's sobriety looked like, or an alcoholic's sobriety looked like, right? Yeah,
I came into the rooms of recovery through the various relationship programs that there are in the rooms of recovery. So I'm in there for sex and love addiction. I'm in there for codependency. I'm in there in this program called Al-Anon for people who tend to want to interfere in other people's lives. Another not as nice way to say codependency. And so for me, most of my recovery has been about changing essentially the way that I relate with people. So rather than impaling myself upon somebody, making them save me, making me save them, I'm practicing what we call emotional sobriety, trying to, one day at a time. So that's been the main thing that's been rebuilding my existence.
As you're talking, Elizabeth, I'm like, she's here.
I know.
Like, you're here talking to us. And you opened up so much in the book, as you and Evan talked about. I mean, truth was really important in all of this. But I can't imagine how difficult that was, too, to open up in so many ways and reveal so much throughout your relationship with Rhea, addiction. Tell me why. Why was that important for you to do?
You know, somebody asked me very early on when the book came out, why did you want to write this book? And my honest response was, I did not want to write this book. Wow. I didn't want to live this story. This story did not go the way that I wanted the story to go in real life. The love story that I envisioned was not what ended up happening. I know many of you can relate to that. Raise your hand if that's been you. And I didn't want to go relive the hell that we went through, that she and I went through together at the end of her life. So I did a lot of things to not have to write this book. I wrote 2 other novels in the last 7 years. I decided it was really important that I learn to speak Spanish. Like, I got a dog. I renovated an apartment. I was like, I have lots of tricks.
Check.
I have lots of tricks for not feeling, healing, and dealing. And yet, the story would not leave me alone. I even tried to write it as fiction. I tried to write it as a book of poetry. I did a lot of evasion to not do it. Wow. And ultimately, there was this realization, and I think anybody who's an artist or a creator will know this, there are certain things that it's not going to leave you alone unless you do it. You have to face it, and the only way to face it is to walk all the way through it. And once that decision was made, where I surrendered to the reality that this story was not going to stop haunting me until I wrote it, then it became evident the only way to do it is to say exactly what happened. And that means, I'm just reading this book by Arundhati Roy right now called Mother Mary Comes to Me, incredible memoir. And she's talking about the process of writing memoir. And she said, if it's going to stand as good literature, you can't write it in a way where you're trying to make the other person look good or try to make you look good. And I knew that Rhea wouldn't mind because Rhea loved to reveal herself. And she was like the most honest and upfront person in the entire world. But I had to put away how I wished the story had been. And I had to put away my own fear about going back into that darkness and just sit down and be like, girl, tell the truth.
Well, and that leads to the thing about an editing process of a book, talking about the book and doing it and having to relive it. I mean, your writing is addicting.
Yeah.
I know that we were talking about addiction, but I'm addicted
That's
to
the
reading.
right kind of addiction.
I know, that's a good
Yeah,
kind of
that's
addiction,
okay.
because it's like every day I was waking up, it's like, oh, I got to get back to this book. It was that kind of a visceral thing. But to have to relive it, to write it, but then there's a whole editing process that goes through. So how did having to relive it over and over and over again, did that take its toll on you in that?
Well, and then there's the publicity.
Yes, right now.
You know, I mean, at this point, I'm just like, let's go, let's talk about it. No, but like,
So does it
those
trigger
first
you a
few
little bit?
interviews, you know,
Yeah.
it's like palms are sweaty, mom's spaghetti. Like, what have I just done?
Right.
You know, and then there's also, you know, image management of all kind of had to drop away here. Like any sort of brand management of like the nice lady who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. It's like, well, I've been busy the last few years, everybody, you know, but it's not just that. It's like I had to go to my parents and say, here, I've written this book about, you know, the reality of your daughter, which is that she's a sex and love addict. So here you go. You know, here's the manuscript. I want to let you read it. Like, there's all these levels of reveal. And yet, God, my favorite line that Rhea used to say and why I loved her so much was because she lived this in her sobriety. She lived this more vividly than anyone I've ever met. She used to say, the truth has legs. And what she meant by that was it always stands. At the end of the day, after all the drama and all the denials and all the image management and all the games that we play and all the presentation that we do of ourselves, of a persona of how we want to be seen, there's a truth that's just standing there in the room waiting for you to address it. And weirdly, even though sometimes it's our last idea to go to that place, once you get there, it's actually kind of sort of relaxing.
It wasn't as bad as it
Well,
seemed.
yeah,
right?
because after,
Yeah.
like, once you start living your life with this policy, we're like, I'm just going to tell the truth, then life becomes actually radically simple.
Yeah.
And then all those reveals, like handing the book to my parents and being like, this is actually the truth, you know, about who I am. And I know some of this may be really disturbing and triggering to you, won't hurt my feelings if you don't read it, you know, but this is the actual truth. Or like putting it out in the world and saying, hey, this is, you know, this is what happened. And what I hear whenever I do this, and I've done it to lesser degrees in other books that I've written, but I've always been pretty open. What I hear is a chorus of like, oh, me too, you know? And then it's like, can we all just drop the persona? Can we all just drop the public image and just be like, oh, here's where I suffer. And here's where my addiction lies. And here's the thing I can't put down. You know, here's the thing that I feel like if I put it down, I would have to live in a kind of pain of reality that I don't want to live in. Oh, I also have that, you know? And like suddenly now we have actual intimacy, which is, ironically, as a love addict, what I'm looking for all the time, you know? But there's no way to get to that place unless we just show up unvarnished.
Right. And I wish we could tell that to our younger selves.
Right.
I know, right?
You know?
I know.
What a load lifted.
Whenever people say to me, what, you know, that classic question, like, what would you tell your younger self? My answer is always the same. It's like, nothing she would have listened to.
Yeah, it's so
Can't put an old
hard.
head on a young body, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. Like,
You can't.
It's just, like, that's it.
It's just what it is. It reminds me, one of my favorite notions is grief is unexpressed love. And it feels like this book is grief through expressing love. And like what we're talking about here and sharing it with your parents and sharing it with the world. What has that been like in the last few weeks that this book has been out and as you've shared it, as you've
It's a mixed bag. I mean, if we're telling the truth, you know, like there's still a part of me that's like, why did you do this to us? Why'd you blow up our spot so hard? People used to kind of admire you, you know, like, or, you know, whatever. I mean, I know whenever I'm looking for admiration, I'm in a wounded ego anyway, which is not where I want to live. Where my soul wants intimacy and truth, my ego wants to preserve an image, you know? So especially when it's been criticized or when there's been controversy around it, you know, those younger parts of me are like, we had a perfectly good life with nobody knowing this. Like, you did not have to do this, you know? And yet I was called to do it. I was called to do it by this story. I feel also as though, as somebody who's an addict in recovery and identifies as one and who speaks openly about sex and love addiction, which very few women will do, I also feel like it's an act of service and that part of my recovery and sobriety is to talk about my addiction in a public way so that the addict who's still suffering can find their way to recovery, maybe. And so what I've also noticed, I was just at the airport this morning coming into San Diego, and a woman literally stopped me in the bathroom, and she's like, wait, and she ran over, and she's like digging through her bag, and she's like, I'm reading it for the second time right now, because I needed to go through it with a magic marker and underline all of these things that she's like, you just showed me and helped me understand why I act the way I act in my romantic relationships, why I abandon myself so much, why I go from person to person. She's like, you're telling my story here. So if like one woman in a bathroom comes to me in tears saying, you just told my story, then that settles the other parts of me who are like, why did we just do this? That's why, that's why.
You took us on like a journey of emotions through all of this, as I'm sure you know and have heard. There was a moment in the book where I was like, mad at you. I'm not gonna lie. And, like,
I think we all were at
there's a
various
moment-
points. We
well,
talked about this.
When we discussed this, where it was kind of like, I was joking, but kind of not, when I was bitter about the bitters. So when Rhea was like having her bottles of bitters with her, and I'm like, she didn't stop her, she didn't shake her and say no. But tell me about that, because obviously this is something so many people who are with addicts, have relationships with people who have been struggling through all of that, might look the other way or justify.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Okay, so the
I'm not mad at you
background
anymore,
is
by
that,
the
no, listen, all feelings are welcome here. Obviously.
All are welcome.
So Rhea was a drug addict in recovery, and she had been sober for many, many years, and somewhere along her sobriety journey, here's the thing about addiction, all of us who have had any interactions with addictions, either our own or the addictions of others, know that the most heartbreaking thing about addiction is that it's a disease that lies to us and tells us we don't have a disease. So somewhere along her sobriety journey, she was like, I'm allowed to drink, because alcohol was never really a big part of my addiction story. I'm a heroin addict and a cocaine addict. I don't even really like alcohol that much. I don't even need it. I don't even really want it, but I'm gonna start drinking it every day a lot, right? Like, and I was like, okay, because at that point in our narrative, I had basically deified Rhea. I had turned her into my higher power. I had pedestalized her. I had done all the things I do when I'm in love with somebody. And when I'm in love with somebody, I put the blinders on and I project onto them exactly what I need them to be. And my version of when I saw her drinking was, Rhea is so cool because she knows herself so well that she knows like what substances she can use and what substances she can't use. And so I support her because she's awesome. And I wish all these people who are like really fundamentalist sobriety people would just shut up and leave her alone, because there were people in her life who were shaking her. The people who she was in the rooms of recovery with for years who were like, dude, not cool. Like intoxication is intoxication is intoxication. Substance is substance is substance. Like, you are an addict in recovery. This is unsafe. You are using. You are not sober. And I saw what she did with all those people. She, first of all, dressed them down in a way that Rhea, who was very tough, could do, defended herself, and then kicked them out of her lives.
And you didn't want to be that.
I didn't want to be kicked out of her life. And also I was like, I don't like those people. And so I'm a good little enabler. So I'm just gonna like go right ahead and enable this. And now when you said like, now it's very interesting, because having gone full circle through my own addiction and also being in recovery as a codependent and as an enabler, my response today to that would be, do what you're going to do, because that's what they're going to do.
Anyways.
We were talking about this beforehand. We cannot control other people. This is the main lesson that I have to learn heartbreakingly day after day, is that apparently God's just out here letting everybody do what they want, right? And apparently I don't have any power over anyone. So what I might say today in a situation like that is, it's so heartbreaking for me to be around you when you're using, and I'm not skilled enough yet to be able to manage what that does to my heart, that I'm gonna have to step back. And I'm gonna, but like, no judgment, you do what you need to do, but I can't be in this story. Which is ultimately what I did end up saying.
And what an evolution,
Well, and your friends, like she kind of kicked her friends to the curb, but your friends came to your rescue in a big way Is that?
Oh yeah, we're all just codependent around here. I mean, they did though. I mean, they did as much as they could. You know, and
Yeah.
ultimately the kindest thing that any of my friends have ever done for me, and I have wonderful friends who have done a lot for me, including things that
Telling you.
maybe might not have been emotionally healthy for them to do, right? But like the most extraordinary thing that any of my friends ever did for me was when a dear friend of mine who has long, robust recovery in AA and has been my friend for 25 years sat me down and did an intervention and said, like, I've been watching you for 25 years go from one relationship to another, to another, to another, always overlapping, always with an enormous amount of drama, always abandoning yourself into one person after another, always pouring your whole life into them and transforming your whole self to please them. I mean, there's a line in Eat, Pray, Love that's not untrue, where somebody says to Julia Roberts, some people look like their dogs, you always end up looking like whoever you're dating, right? Like, and that was the least of it. It's not just that I dressed like and acted like whoever I was dating. I just became a totally different person for whoever I was with, and always ended up defeated on the bathroom floor, which is where many of you met me in the first place for Eat, Pray, Love. And she was like, this is addictive behavior. This is compulsion that you're powerless over, and there are rooms of recovery that you can go to for that. And I'm going to take you tonight to one of those meetings. And I was like, when my friend told me that, I was like, I'm so insulted. I am a major global thought leader.
Right. I was Time's most influential.
Literally. How dare you?
Have you read my resume? People come to me for guidance. You know, and
But how to take that though?
Yeah.
but I needed to be humbled in that way.
It seems like you had your friend showing up and you also had an opportunity to befriend a part in you. You talk so much about little Lizzie, and I loved that part and how it turned into this relationship with this younger version of yourself. Just fantastic. And I felt so much for little Lizzie. I remember one of my favorite poems is All Too Fragile, or was it?
Too fragile
Almost
to be,
too
almost
fragile,
too
to
fragile
be.
to be. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you have a favorite poem in it?
Oh my gosh, the one that comes to mind right now, because the book also has my drawings and
Yeah.
photographs and poems, so it's really kind of like a 3D experience to read the book. But the one that I think of is a poem called Surrender. And it's just one line. And it says, for once in your life, let the butter cut the knife. That's what it
I know.
feels
Oh,
like.
good.
That's what it truly feels like, to surrender, to soften, to stop fighting reality, to stop trying to control other people, to stop trying to bend the world to my will. So that poem, I think, is probably the one that gets to the essence of what recovery looks like for me. And thank you for loving my little.
From my little Miranda to your little Lizzie.
Honey, you know, yeah.
I wish we had more time to talk. This happens every
Every time.
time.
It goes like
where we
so
wish we
quick.
could go for another hour,
At
2
least.
hours, literally. But we are out of time, unfortunately. It has been an honor to have you on the show. I think I can speak for all of us in saying that reading through your journey, we're happy to see you on this side. And
you.
it's beautiful that you're here in San Diego to be able to talk more about it. So
Thanks, Evan.
course,
And
we'd love
thanks,
to
you
have
guys, for such
fun,
wonderful
of course.
questions. I've loved
thank
having
you
this
to our
time with
panel, our amazing panel. We are going to have more on our website, cbs8.com/book club with Elizabeth Gilbert. We'll also be talking more in the coming weeks about what our next book club pick will be. So we appreciate you at
exciting.
home. I know, right? We'll get you a copy. You can join us for the next one.
I would
as a
love
panelist.
to. I would love to. I would 100% come out and do that.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you guys as
Thank
well.
you. Thank
you. Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
Thanks for watching Book Date with 8. In January, we'll be announcing our first quarter pick for 2026. Remember, to watch any past interviews with San Diego-based authors, you can head to cbs8.com/book club.